The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in empty space like a metal city. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went from its docking bays. Inside the station's great hall, representatives from across the galaxy sat in a perfect circle. This was the Galactic Harmony Council, and today they were deciding the fate of human colonies under attack. Admiral Taman Park sat in the human section, his dark uniform clean and pressed. Next to him, Ambassador Eugene Kim held a datapad with pictures of burning cities. Behind them, Captain Dongwu Li watched the alien representatives with careful eyes. For 30 years, humans had served this council faithfully. They had followed every rule, paid every tax, and accepted every insult with quiet dignity, but today felt different. The Vorthan Empire has attacked 6 human colonies in the Kepler sector, Eugene said, standing to address the council. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the pain underneath. Our people are dying. We need help to stop this attack. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles that went up toward the ceiling. Each section belonged to a different alien race. The Zilithians sat in blue chairs, their tall bodies covered in scales that changed color with their moods. The Korthani representatives were ancient creatures that looked like walking trees, their bark-like skin dark with age. Dozens of other species filled the remaining seats. At the center of it all sat High Arbiter Kexthul, the oldest member of the council. His tree-like face showed no emotion as Eugene spoke. He had seen 1,000 years of galactic politics, and humans were still newcomers in his eyes. The Kepler sector attacks are unfortunate, said Councillor Veltar from the Zilithian section. His scales shifted to a dismissive yellow color. But the council cannot interfere in every small conflict. It would upset the balance we have worked so hard to maintain. Eugene's hands tightened on her datapad. Small conflict. 50,000 civilians are dead. 3 entire cities have been destroyed. How is this small? Your species chose to settle in dangerous areas, Veltar replied with a wave of his clawed hand. Perhaps if humans had evolved beyond their primitive warmongering, they would not find themselves in such situations. A low murmur went through the human section. Admiral Taman's jaw tightened, but he remained seated. He had heard worse insults over the years. The aliens often spoke about humans like they were barely intelligent animals, useful for manual labor and decent as soldiers, but not smart enough for real leadership. We followed all settlement protocols, Eugene said, her voice rising slightly. These colonies were approved by this very council. We built schools, hospitals, farms. These were peaceful settlements. Peaceful, laughed another alien representative, this one from the Thraxian Empire. His insect-like features clicked as he spoke. Humans and peace? Your species has been fighting wars since you learned to make fire. That's not fair, Captain Dongwu said quietly, but loud enough for others to hear. Every species here has a history of conflict. But we evolved past it, Veltar said, his scales now showing orange stripes of superiority. We learned diplomacy. We learned patience. Humans still solve problems with violence. Eugene looked around the chamber. Not one alien representative looked concerned about the human deaths. Some seemed bored. Others appeared amused by the debate. After 30 years of loyal service, this was how the council saw humanity. As entertainment, what would you have us do? She asked, her voice now showing real anger. Should we just let our people die? Should we abandon our colonies? You should learn to negotiate better, Veltar said with what might have been a smile. Violence is always the last resort of inferior minds. That was when Admiral Taman Park stood up. The chamber grew quiet. Taman was known throughout the galaxy as a man of few words. He had fought in a dozen conflicts, always following council orders. He had saved alien lives countless times, never asking for recognition. When he spoke, even his enemies listened. Inferior minds, he repeated slowly, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. 30 years we have served this council. 30 years we have followed your rules, paid your taxes, died in your wars, and still you call us inferior. High Arbiter Kexthul leaned forward in his ancient chair. Admiral Park, please sit down. This discussion is not yet finished, but Taman did not sit. Instead, he looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Some were curious. Others were annoyed. None showed respect. You want to know what's inferior? Taman asked. Watching innocent people die while you debate procedures. Calling for peace while you ignore genocide. claiming moral superiority while you do nothing to help those who need it. How dare you? Veltar hissed, his scales turning deep red with anger. You forget your place, human. No, Taman said quietly. I remember it perfectly, and I'm done with it. He turned to Yujin and nodded. She understood immediately and began gathering her papers. Captain Dongwu stood as well, along with the other human representatives in their section. Where are you going? Demanded High Arbiter Kexthal. This session is not over. Taman stopped walking and turned back to face the council. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from this council. We will no longer serve masters who view us as expendable. We will no longer pretend that your indifference is wisdom. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. In the 1,000-year history of the Galactic Harmony Council, no member species had ever voluntarily left. It simply was not done. You cannot leave, Kexthal said, his ancient voice showing surprise for the first time in centuries. The council is eternal. Membership is permanent. Watch us, Yujin said as she walked past the alien representatives. At the chamber entrance, she turned back one last time. We came here seeking partners. We found only tyrants hiding behind ceremony. As the human delegation left the chamber, their footsteps echoed in the stunned silence. Behind them, dozens of alien voices began talking at once. Some demanded the humans be brought back by force. Others wondered if this was some kind of human trick. But Admiral Taemin Park did not look back. He had made his choice, and there was no changing it now. In the docking bay, the human ships waited with their engines already warming up. Within an hour, the entire Earth fleet had jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a council that had never imagined this day would come. The age of human submission was over. What would come next, nobody knew. 5 years had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council, 5 years of complete silence from Earth and all human space. Dr. Haizuan Choi stared out the window of Research Station Kepler-7, watching alien ships move cargo between the platforms. She was the only human left in this part of the galaxy, working undercover as a xenobiologist studying alien plant life. But her real job was much more important. She was watching and listening, sending secret reports back to Earth about what was happening to the galaxy without humans. The news was not good. Her computer showed the latest intelligence reports. The Vorthon Empire had grown bold after the humans left. They had conquered not just the 6 human colonies they originally attacked, but 12 more worlds belonging to other species. Their black warships moved through space like hungry sharks, taking whatever they wanted. Another Rillan trade convoy was destroyed yesterday, her assistant said. Kex 9 was a young Rillan, one of the peaceful blue-skinned people who had always been friends with humans. His large eyes were sad as he delivered the news. That makes 15 convoys this month. Haiwan nodded grimly. The Rillans were suffering badly without human protection. Their home star system was surrounded by Vorthon territory now. Every supply ship that tried to reach them was attacked or captured. Soon their entire civilization might collapse from starvation. What does the council say? She asked, though she already knew the answer. They formed a committee to study the situation, Kex 9 replied. The committee will report back in 6 months. 6 months. Haiwan closed her eyes and tried not to scream. This was exactly why the humans had left. While people died, the council talked. While civilizations fell, they formed committees. Her secret communication device buzzed softly. A message from Commander So Young Yoon, who was leading covert rescue missions in former human territory. Hee-won read the report quickly, her heart sinking with each line. The Vorthons were not just conquering worlds. They were enslaving the populations. Humans who had lived peacefully on those colonies for generations were now working in mining camps and weapon factories. The aliens who had lived alongside them shared the same fate. But the worst part was how the other galactic powers were reacting. They were not horrified by the Vorthon expansion. They were inspired by it. The Thraxian Empire had started attacking their own neighbors, claiming they needed more resources for defense. The Zilithian Republic was demanding higher taxes from smaller species, saying it was for their own protection. Even species that had seemed peaceful before were now talking about the need for stronger military forces. Without humans to stand up for the weak, the galaxy was becoming a much darker place. Iwan opened her research files and began typing her weekly report. On the surface, it looked like a boring scientific document about alien plant growth. But hidden in the data were coded messages that told the real story of galactic decay. Dr. Choi, Kex 9 said nervously. There's something else. The Quilarian ambassador sent a message this morning. Their homeworld is under attack. The Quilarians were another peaceful species known for their art and music. They had never hurt anyone, never threatened any neighbor. Their only crime was being too weak to defend themselves. Who's attacking them? HFY asked, though she suspected she already knew. The Vorthon Empire. Chancellor Morden himself is leading the fleet. They say he wants to make an example of what happens to worlds that refuse to pay tribute. HFY felt sick. The Quilarians were gentle people who looked like tall, thin birds. Their cities were filled with beautiful sculptures and concert halls. The idea of Vorthon soldiers destroying that culture was heartbreaking. What did the council say? She asked. They're debating whether to send a strongly worded message of concern. Kex-9 said quietly. A strongly worded message. While an entire civilization was being destroyed, HFY's communication device buzzed again. This time it was an emergency signal from So Young's team. She read the message quickly, her hands shaking. Evacuation complete. Last human colony in Vorthon space now empty. Over 200,000 refugees, heading to safe zones. Vorthons killed anyone who resisted. Council refuses to acknowledge genocide. 200,000 people forced from their homes. Families separated. Children who would never see their birth world again. All because the council preferred talking to acting. But there was more to the message. Hidden in the coded text was intelligence that made HFY's blood run cold. The Vorthons were not planning to stop with small colonies and weak species. Chancellor Morden was building the largest war fleet in galactic history. His target was the core worlds themselves. The core worlds were the heart of galactic civilization. Rich planets with billions of inhabitants. If the Vorthons attacked there, the death toll would be unimaginable, and still the council would probably form another committee. HFY coded this information into her research report and sent it toward human space. As always, there was no reply. Earth had been completely silent for 5 years. No diplomatic messages, no trade communications, no response to any contact attempts. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. Sometimes HFY wondered if Earth had given up entirely. Maybe they had decided that the galaxy was not worth saving. Maybe they were building walls around their solar system and ignoring everything outside. But deep in her heart, she did not believe that. The humans she knew would not abandon their friends. Admiral Taemin Park and Ambassador Yujin Kim were good people. They had walked away from the council, but they had not walked away from their principles. Somewhere out there, Earth was planning something. The question was what, and whether it would come in time. Her computer chimed with an incoming news report. The Quilarian capital city was under siege. Vorthon warships were bombarding the planet from orbit. Millions of innocent people were trapped in the fighting. The Quilarian ambassador had sent one final message before the communication arrays were destroyed. It was broadcast to every known coordinate in human space, a desperate plea that disappeared into the void. If you still remember what honor means, help us. HFY read those words again and again. Help us. Such simple words, but so full of pain and hope. She looked out the station window again. Somewhere beyond the stars, Earth was listening. She had to believe that, because if humanity had truly abandoned the galaxy, then there was no hope left for anyone. The silence from human space continued, cold and complete. But HFY kept watching, kept reporting, kept believing that someday the silence would break, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. The moment the Earth fleet returned to the solar system, Admiral Taemin Park called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every human world gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Luna Station. The mood was angry and determined. Everyone had seen the reports from the Kepler colonies. Everyone knew what the Council's inaction really meant. We are alone now, Taemin said to the packed hall. For 30 years we trusted others to protect us. That trust was misplaced. From this day forward, humanity protects itself. Dr. Jae-ho Shin stood up from the science section. He was a thin man with quick eyes and hands that never stopped moving. What you're suggesting will take enormous resources. We would need to rebuild our entire military and technology base. Then we rebuild it, Taemin replied simply. Whatever it takes. And so began the Aurora Project, the most ambitious program in human history. Dr. Jae-ho became the chief scientist, leading teams that worked around the clock. They studied every piece of alien technology they could find. Captured Vorthon weapons, Zilithian shield generators, even some ancient Korthani artifacts that had been in human museums. But humans did not just copy alien designs. They improved them. The alien races had become comfortable with their technology. They used the same weapon designs for centuries, making only small changes. Humans looked at those old designs and asked a simple question: why does it have to work this way? Within 6 months, human engineers had built energy weapons that were 30% more powerful than anything the Vorthons used. They created armor that could adapt to different types of attacks, learning and changing in real time. Most importantly, they developed hyperdrives that could jump farther and faster than any alien ship. General Yoon-ji Han took charge of military training. She was a compact woman with steel in her voice and fire in her eyes. Under her command, human military doctrine changed completely. "We are not going to be auxiliaries anymore," she told her officers. "We are not going to be cannon fodder. We are going to be the best fighting force this galaxy has ever seen." Human soldiers trained harder than ever before. They learned to think fast, move fast, and adapt to changing situations. While alien armies relied on rigid formations and ancient tactics, humans embraced flexibility and innovation. But the most important change was happening in secret laboratories hidden throughout the solar system. Director Mi-kyung Lim ran Earth's new intelligence service. She was a quiet woman who seemed to know everything about everyone. Her agents spread across the galaxy, gathering information and making contacts. But her most important project was something the Council had banned centuries ago. The Silicon Wars taught everyone to fear artificial intelligence, she explained to Taemin during a classified briefing. But what if we could create AI that worked with humans instead of replacing them? The Aurora Project's greatest secret was the development of true AI partners. Not servants or tools, but digital minds that could think and learn alongside humans. These AIs did not want to rule over humanity. They wanted to help humanity reach its full potential. Captain Kyung-Soo Nam was chosen to be the first test pilot for the new Phoenix-class warships. These vessels combined human intuition with AI computational power. When Kyung-Soo thought about turning left, the AI already knew why and was calculating the best way to do it. When the AI detected a threat, Kyung-Soo's instincts told him how to respond. The result was ships that moved like living creatures, faster and more agile than anything in space. "It's like the ship is part of me," Kyung-Soo reported after his first test flight. "I think, and it responds. It calculates, and I understand. We're not human and machine anymore. We're something new." The first Phoenix-class ship was just the beginning. Human shipyards worked day and night, building vessels that incorporated the best of human creativity and AI precision. Each ship was unique, designed for specific missions but able to adapt to any situation. While the military prepared for war, human diplomats prepared for peace. Yoojin Kim had not given up on galactic civilization. She believed that most species were good at heart, trapped in a system that rewarded selfishness and punished cooperation. "When we return to the galaxy, we must offer an alternative," she said during planning sessions. "Not just military strength, but a better way of living together." Her teams designed new forms of government and trade. Systems where every world had an equal voice regardless of size or power. Economic networks that helped poor planets develop instead of keeping them dependent. As the months passed, reports arrived from Dr. Hai Wan and Commander So Young. The galaxy was falling apart without human leadership. The Vorthons grew bolder with each victory. Other species either joined the strong or were crushed by them. "We could wait longer," Director Mi-kyung advised during one strategy meeting. "Our forces are growing stronger every day. In a few more years, we could be completely unstoppable." Admiral Taemin studied the intelligence reports spread across his desk. Pictures of burning Rillan ships, data about Quilarian cities under bombardment, lists of species that had been conquered or enslaved. "How many more will die while we prepare?" he asked quietly. That was when the Quilarian distress call arrived. It came through every communication channel, broadcast to every known coordinate in human space. The message was simple and desperate. "If you still remember what honor means, help us." Taemin read the message 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting of the Aurora Project leadership. "The Quilarians are peaceful people," Yoojin said when they gathered. "They have never threatened anyone. If we let them be destroyed, what does that make us?" "It makes us smart," argued one general. "We are not ready for a full galactic war. We should wait until our preparation is complete. There will always be reasons to wait, General Yunji replied. The question is whether we still remember why we left the council in the first place. Dr. J. Ho looked up from his technical reports. The Aurora fleet is ready. 1,000 ships, each more advanced than anything currently in space. Our AI partners are fully integrated. Our weapons and defenses are operational. But we don't know how they will perform in real combat, the cautious general insisted. There's only one way to find out, Captain Kyung-soo said with a grin. Admiral Taemin stood at the head of the table looking at each face in turn. These people had worked for 5 years to transform humanity from a junior partner to a galactic superpower. They had succeeded beyond anyone's dreams. Now it was time to find out if power and principle could work together. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity has become. The Aurora fleet began its final preparations. 1,000 ships of incredible power, crewed by humans who had learned to work with artificial minds. Technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Tactics that no alien commander could predict. Earth was ready to return to galactic politics. But this time they would not be asking for permission. The Quilarian homeworld of Ethros was dying. From the bridge of his flagship, Chancellor Mordun of the Vorthan Empire watched the planet's beautiful cities burn. His massive fleet surrounded the world like a metal fist, pounding the surface with energy weapons. Their orbital defenses are destroyed, reported his tactical officer. Ground resistance is minimal. We can begin the final assault. Mordun smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Quilarians had always annoyed him with their talk of art and peace. Now their precious sculptures were melting under Vorthon fire. Their concert halls had become ruins. Soon their entire species would serve as slaves in Vorthon mines. Begin planetary bombardment, he ordered. I want this finished before the Council can send another useless committee. The Vorthon ships moved into bombing formation, their weapons charged with deadly energy. In a few hours, the last free Quilarian city would be ash. That was when space itself seemed to tear open. At the edge of the star system, reality twisted and folded. Hyperspace rifts appeared in perfect formation, each one exactly the same size and distance apart. Through those rifts came ships, human ships. 1,000 vessels emerged from hyperspace in a display of coordination that took everyone's breath away. They moved together like a school of fish or a flock of birds, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. But these were not the human ships that had left the galaxy 5 years ago. These vessels gleamed with new technology. Their hulls were smooth and curved, designed for speed and stealth. Strange energy patterns flickered along their surfaces. They looked alive. What are those? Whispered a Vorthon bridge officer. Chancellor Mordun stared at the tactical display. His fleet numbered 1,500 ships, the largest force the Vorthon Empire had ever assembled. But something about those human vessels made his stomach twist with fear. All ships battle formation, he ordered. Prepare to destroy the human fleet. From the lead human ship came a transmission that reached every vessel in the system. The voice was calm and female, speaking with absolute authority. This is Fleet Admiral Eugene Kim of the Earth Federation Aurora Fleet. All Vorthon vessels will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Mordun laughed, the sound echoing through his ship's bridge. The primitive humans return with threats? Signal all ships. Attack formation. Show them what real power looks like. The massive Vorthon fleet turned toward the human ships. 1,500 warships against 1,000. The odds seemed clearly in Mordun's favor. He had no idea how wrong he was. The human ships moved first. Instead of forming the rigid battle lines that alien fleets always used, they scattered in all directions. Some ships dove toward the planet. Others climbed high above the battle plane. A few seemed to vanish entirely using stealth technology that the Vorthons could not detect. What are they doing? Demanded Mordun. Where is their formation? His tactical officer stared at the displays in confusion. Sir, I can't predict their movements. They're not following any known battle doctrine. The first Vorthon ships opened fire, sending streams of energy toward the human vessels. But the humans were no longer where the weapons were aimed. They moved like dancers, each ship flowing around enemy fire with impossible grace. Then the humans fired back. The difference was shocking. Human weapons were not just more powerful than Vorthon guns. They were smarter. Energy beams curved around shields to hit weak spots. Missiles changed course in mid-flight to attack from unexpected angles. Some weapons seemed to learn from each shot, becoming more accurate with every attack. But the real surprise was how the human ships worked together. When one vessel was targeted by multiple enemies, others appeared from nowhere to help. When a Vorthon ship thought it had a clear shot, it found human weapons aimed at its own weak points. It was as if the entire human fleet shared a single mind. Captain Kyung-Soo Nam piloted his Phoenix-class destroyer through the chaos of battle. His AI partner, which he had named Bright Star, whispered tactical information directly into his thoughts. "Vorthon cruiser approaching from starboard," Bright Star said. "Weak armor plating detected near the engine section." Kyung-Soo did not need to give orders. He simply thought about the target and his ship responded. Weapons fired with perfect accuracy. The Vorthon cruiser's engines exploded, sending the ship spinning helplessly through space. All around him, other human ships fought with the same deadly coordination. Admiral Taman Park commanded from the flagship Earth's Pride, but he did not give individual orders to each ship. Instead, he shared his tactical vision with the fleet's AI network, and every captain instantly understood their role. The Vorthons had never seen anything like it. Their ships were designed for overwhelming weaker opponents through brute force. Against an enemy that could think faster and move smarter, their advantages meant nothing. "Sir," the Vorthon tactical officer said, his voice shaking, "we've lost 300 ships. The humans have lost none." Chancellor Morden could not believe what he was hearing. "That's impossible. Signal the reserve squadrons. All ships concentrate fire on their flagship." 200 Vorthon ships turned their weapons toward Earth's Pride. Enough firepower to destroy. A small moon focused on Admiral Taman's command ship, the energy beams, never reached their target. Human ships appeared, between the attackers and their goal, shields blazing as they absorbed the devastating fire. But these were not the old-style energy shields that the galaxy had used for centuries. These barriers seemed to learn from each attack, becoming stronger and more resistant with every hit. While the Vorthons wasted their power on adaptive shields, human weapons struck back with surgical precision. Engine rooms exploded. Command bridges went dark. Weapon systems failed in cascading failures. The mighty Vorthon 7th Fleet, terror of 3-star sectors, was being torn apart by a force 1/3 its size. "Retreat," Morden finally whispered. "Sir?" his communications officer asked. "I said retreat," the Chancellor screamed. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump, now!" The surviving Vorthon vessels fled in panic, jumping to hyperspace without coordination or planning. Many ships collided during their escape, adding to the disaster. Others jumped to random coordinates, lost and alone in the vast galaxy. In 17 minutes, the most powerful fleet in Vorthon history had been destroyed. Admiral Taman Park watched the last enemy ships disappear into hyperspace. Around his flagship, human vessels moved with calm efficiency, rescuing survivors and checking for damage. The Aurora fleet had performed perfectly. "Signal the Quilarian government," he ordered. "Tell them their world is safe." From the planet below came transmissions of joy and disbelief. The Quilarian people had been preparing to die. Instead, they had been saved by ships they thought would never return. But Taman was not finished. He opened a communication channel that would reach every corner of the galaxy. His message was broadcast to council chambers, alien homeworlds, and hidden pirate bases alike. To all who would prey upon the innocent, his voice carried across the stars. "Earth has returned. To all who value freedom and justice, we remember our friends. The age of council in action is over." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. News of the battle spread faster than light through hyperspace communication networks. The impossible had happened. Humanity had returned not as humble supplicants, but as the most powerful military force anyone had ever seen. On Nexus Prime, Counselor Veltar stared at tactical recordings of the battle. His scales had turned white with shock. The humans had not just defeated the Vorthans, they had made it look easy. High Arbiter Kexthul spoke the words that every council member was thinking. What have we done? The balance of galactic power had shifted in a single day. The age of human weakness was over. What would come next, no one could predict. But across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear began to hope again. Earth had returned, and with it came the promise of justice. 6 months after the Battle of Ethros, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Ambassador So Young-yoon stood in the Great Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station, watching delegates from dozens of worlds take their seats. This was not the old Galactic Harmony Council with its rigid hierarchies and ancient prejudices. This was something completely new. The Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds. The Vorthon Empire collapsed in 3 weeks, reported Intelligence Director Mi Kyung Lim during the morning briefing. Their subject species rebelled the moment they heard about Ethros. Most of the former Vorthon territories have applied for alliance membership. So Young nodded as she reviewed the applications. Each one told the same story. Species that had been enslaved or oppressed for generations were finally free to choose their own path. The Aurora fleet had not conquered these worlds. They had simply removed the tyrants who had ruled them. What about the core worlds? She asked. The Zilithian Republic sent another diplomatic request yesterday. Mi Kyung replied. They want to discuss terms for joining the alliance. The Thraxian Empire is being more cautious, but their trade minister arrived this morning. It was amazing how quickly former enemies became interested in friendship when they realized Earth's true power. The same species that had mocked humanity for decades were now competing for alliance membership and trade agreements. Through the assembly hall's great windows, So Young could see ships from dozens of worlds docked at the station. Quilarian art vessels floated next to Rillan cargo haulers. Even a few former Vorthon ships, now flying under new flags, had joined the peaceful fleet. But the most remarkable sight was the mixed crews. Humans and aliens working together as equals, not as masters and servants. The old council system had kept species separated and suspicious of each other. The alliance encouraged cooperation and friendship. Ambassador Yoon called a familiar voice. So Young turned to see Veltar approaching across the assembly floor. The former Zilithian counselor looked very different from the arrogant representative who had once dismissed human concerns. His scales were a humble blue-green color and his posture showed genuine respect. Counselor Veltar, So Young replied politely, I hear your government has decided to join the alliance. If you will have us, Veltar said quietly. I know that my past words and actions were unworthy. I spoke from ignorance and pride. I hope that the alliance can find room for those who wish to change. So Young studied the alien's face carefully. She had spent years learning to read different species' expressions and body language. Veltar's remorse appeared genuine. The alliance believes in redemption, she said finally. We judge species and individuals by their current actions, not their past mistakes. But change must be real, not just convenient. I understand, Veltar replied. My people have much to learn about treating others as equals. We hope you will be patient with us. This conversation was happening all across the galaxy. Former council members were discovering that the old system had failed everyone, not just humanity. Species that had seemed powerful under the rigid hierarchy were actually weak and dependent. Without the council's protection, they were vulnerable to the same predators that had once threatened smaller worlds. The alliance offered something better. Real security based on mutual cooperation, economic prosperity through fair trade, scientific advancement through shared research. Most importantly, it offered dignity to every member, regardless of size or technological development. Dr. Haiwan Choi had returned from her years of undercover work to lead the Alliance's research division. Her first project was establishing joint laboratories where humans and aliens could work together on peaceful technologies. The results were already impressive. We've developed a new type of medical scanner that combines human intuition with Quilarian artistic sense and Rillan mathematical precision, she reported during a science briefing. It can detect diseases that no single species technology could find alone. This was the Alliance's greatest strength. Instead of one species dominating others, every member contributed their unique abilities to benefit everyone. Humans provided leadership and innovation. Quilarians offered creativity and beauty. Rillans brought mathematical genius and careful planning. Even former enemies like the Zilithians contributed their advanced energy technologies. But the Alliance's success was not built on kindness alone. The Aurora fleet remained the most powerful military force in the galaxy, and everyone knew it. Admiral Taemin Park, now serving as both fleet commander and Alliance military advisor, made sure that peaceful cooperation was backed by the promise of swift justice for aggressors. 3 pirate groups tried to raid Rillan cargo convoys this month, reported Admiral Dong-woo Lee during a security briefing. All 3 were intercepted by Aurora fleet patrols. The pirates have been transferred to Alliance courts for trial. What about the remaining Vorthan warlords? Taemin asked. Most have surrendered or agreed to peace treaties. The few who continue fighting are being hunted down by their own former subjects. Turns out that liberation is contagious. Through the conference room windows, Taemin could see the symbol of the Alliance's power and purpose. Earth's new flagship, the vessel Harmony, floated in perfect formation with ships from a dozen other worlds. The ship was beautiful as well as powerful, its hull decorated with art from Alliance member species. The name was Yoo-Jin Kim's idea. The former ambassador, now serving as Alliance Secretary General, believed that true harmony could only exist between equals. The old council had tried to create peace through submission. The Alliance built it through mutual respect. Admiral, came a communication from the flagship's AI coordinator. We're receiving a priority message from the Outer Rim territories. 3 systems are requesting Alliance membership and protection from remaining criminal elements. Approved, Taemin replied without hesitation. Send a squadron to provide security while they establish new governments. This happened almost daily now. Worlds that had been ignored or oppressed by the old council were discovering that they had rights and options. The Alliance did not demand tribute or submission. It simply asked new members to treat their neighbors with respect and contribute what they could to the common good. But the Alliance's greatest achievement was not military or political. It was proving that change was possible. Prime Minister Kexithera of the Kolarian Republic had become one of Alliance leadership's most trusted voices. Her people's homeworld had been saved by human intervention, but she did not see this as creating a debt. Instead, she saw it as the beginning of a true friendship. The old council taught us that the strong rule the weak, she said during an Alliance assembly session. The Aurora Project has shown us something different. The strong can choose to protect the weak. When they do, both become stronger. This philosophy was spreading throughout Alliance space. Species that had once competed for scraps from the council table were now working together to solve common problems. Poverty was decreasing as poor worlds received development assistance. Scientific progress was accelerating as researchers shared knowledge freely. Even art and culture were flourishing as different species learned from each other. The transformation was not without challenges. Some species found it difficult to abandon old habits of dominance and submission. Others worried that the Alliance was simply human rule disguised as cooperation. A few former council members refused to join, preferring the familiar corruption of the old system. But for every species that hesitated, 2 others stepped forward eagerly. The Alliance grew stronger with each new member, not through conquest but through willing participation. 5 years after the Battle of Ethros, Ambassador So Young stood once again in an assembly hall, but this one was filled with hope instead of cynicism. Representatives from over 100 worlds sat together as equals, debating policies that would benefit everyone. Through the windows, she could see the Aurora fleet on patrol, but these ships were no longer alone. They flew alongside vessels from dozens of Alliance members, all working together to keep the peace. Admiral Taemin joined her at the observation deck, watching the mixed fleet conduct training exercises. Human ships moved in coordination with alien vessels, each group learning from the others. Do you think we did the right thing? So Young asked. Walking away from the council, then coming back with all this power? Taemin considered the question, while watching a human destroyer flying in perfect formation with ships from 3 different species. All of them flew the Alliance flag alongside their own national symbols. We didn't come back for power, he said finally. We came back for principle. The power is just what happens when you stop accepting that things can't change. Through the great windows, they could see the future of galactic civilization. Ships and crews working together as partners rather than masters and servants. Former enemies learning to trust each other. Weak species protected by strong ones not because they had to be, but because it was right. The Alliance was not perfect. No government or organization ever could be, but it was something the galaxy had never seen before. A system where every voice mattered and every species could reach its full potential. Years later, historians would mark the Battle of Ethros as the moment when galactic politics changed for Eve.